I'm going to take you on a little journey now how to make a lap steel slide guitar. And it won't be no honky 3-string like this bamboo one, which sounds amazing by the way, or this one. It's going to be a 6-string lap steel slide guitar. G'day folks, I'm Stan Ceglinski and I absolutely love making stuff. So I'll show you me family. This is the family I've been creating, and yeah, it's picking sticks, and the only one I didn't make was the ukulele here. That's one I didn't make, but the rest are all handmade. A bamboo guitar, slide guitar, lap steel 3-string, 3-string fretless bass, and cricket bat guitar that Juzzy Smith's made famous. And this is my latest creation. This is a Bo Diddley style 6-string guitar. It's all bespoke. I made all the tailpiece, made everything apart from the neck and the pickups, and even down to a 1-string diddly bow, acoustic one. So I'm going to take you now to my workshop, which is just in the next room. I actually call it my playground, and we'll make a 6-string lap steel slide guitar. I'll just tell you first, I picked up an old Hawaiian Crazy lap steel slide guitar, and I drew a picture of it, a template, sorry, and you don't actually need a template, but if you're going to make more of one or something, you do. And but there's a couple of important things to note, and that's the machine head placement, and the other thing too is you need a datum. You need a line down the middle so you can put your strings, because look, this is going to be a rough instrument, but a rough instrument doesn't have to be inaccurate. It can be music is about notes. Notes are like a scientific sort of a thing, or mathematical sort of thing. And so even though this may appear rough, it's going to be a really good playing instrument. So here's my template. I've got a piece of camphor laurel. It's dried. It's got a heart shape through it. It's got a branch. So I'm just going to work around it and cut it out. I've already drawn a datum down the middle of it, but anyway, we'll just clamp it up and I'll cut out the shape. And there's our guitar shape. Now, because it's not a fretted instrument, it's not overly important that it's perfectly flat, because it's not. It's not bad actually. If you look down the timber, it's fairly straight. Now, one of the important things is, like I said already, you want a datum so you can work to a center line, and I've already drawn that with a pencil, and The next thing is we're going to mark out the nut and the frets where they'll be going and the bridge placement. I'll just clean my bench. Right. There's a mathematical formula for working out what's called scale length. Scale is the distance between the nut and the bridge. So I could actually, if I had a piece of steel wire or string, let's call it steel wire, thin tomato wire or something, and I want to make a guitar 3 meters long, there's a mathematical formula, and I'll give it to you at the end. And so you work out your length, let's call it say 3 meters if you want to be silly. You divide 3 meters by a certain number, divided by equals, and it gives you a number. You go again, divided by equals, it gives you another number, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller. So anyway, the scale length for now, I've already worked out on this piece of timber. And so we've got our nut. The nut placement is going to be here, and then the frets will go down, and the bridge is going to be down here somewhere. Now the bridge, the relationship of the on the slide guitar from the nut to the 12th fret is double that to the bridge. When you fret a musical instrument with chords, the unwound first, second or third if it's unwound, or if it's wound on acoustic guitars, there's another technical term comes in called intonation. And the string, when it goes from an unwound plain string to a wound string, you have to add the dimension in difference in thickness to the plain to the next. Say from the going from the skinny strings, you got your say E, A, B, G, D, A, E strings. Well, you keep adding the difference in thickness of strings to the others as you go thicker, and it puts the strings back further because the mathematical formula is plus. So the sixth string on the bridge is maybe back about 3 mil. It could be less or more depending on the sizes, but anyway, for now, and the intonation and all that sort of stuff I can talk about later or give you information. So the 12th fret is half the distance from the nut to the bridge. So we've got our 12th fret here, 12th fret there, and then we've got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 frets, and there's our bridge. Now we'll be drawing lines across for the pretending where the frets are going to be. So I've just got a square, and I'll just transfer those lines across. Actually, I'll do that with pen, because those lines can be permanent. So they're our fret markers. Right, so there's our neck, fretboard, there's the nut, there's the bridge, which I forgot to draw in. Now, there's some magic places along the neck and on guitars, and no difference with lap steel slide guitars, there's some magic numbers. And I confused, one day righto, so how it starts is you got your first fret, second, third fret is like a magic spot. And then the fourth, the fifth is also a magic spot. Fifth, 6, 7 is also a magic spot. Now, I've sometimes seen on the 10th fret a marker as well, but more likely it's on the 9th fret. So you've got the 3rd, 5th, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 12 is the octave, so we have 2 dots there to signify the octave, so 12, and then we go again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the other octaves up here somewhere. So that's our fingerboard marked out. Now, I'll mark out the machine head placement, drill that, and then I've made a bridge already, and I'll show you that. Now, I found some tuners, 3-a-side tuners, which are perfect for our application. I think these cost maybe $5 a set or something. They're cheap, but they work perfect. And the thing is with tuners, you've got a drive, a worm drive, and then you've got a little crown wheel. Now, if the string is pulling this way, it'll want to disengage the crown wheel from the pinion. So this has to go on the side where when the string pulls it, it's actually engaging. If I pull a string this way, it's going to engage the crown wheel and pinion together. So you have to make sure you put these on the right way. It will work the other way, but it'll fail real soon. Now, I found a plate that's got exactly the same hole placement as the machine head gang that I'm using, so I'm going to use this for a template for the holes. The holes are pretty important. About 13 millimetres in from the side. There's a gauge called a finger gauge, and you can do it like this. Like that. So we've made some headway. I used an awl. You can sharpen up a hex head roofing screw or something, but when you're going to drill holes, it's this is a Colt Clinton awl, good mate of mine, and so we've marked them, and so the drill is going to go in the absolutely perfect spot. Now, before we drill it, we're not using bone or titanium or brass. We're using a common old bit of continuous thread, cheap as. You can use different sizes, and we want the apex of the bolt right on the centre of the nut. So as the string crosses over, it's crossing over on the very top. And so I'm just going to mark out the where it's going. Like that, like that. And what we're going to do then is with a saw and a rat tail file will cut down to the line. Now, I've never done this before either, folks, not on a film like this. This is my very first time of doing this, so I'm used to working on my own, and very, very happily working on my own. So I apologise if it doesn't appear professional in any way, shape or form. It will sit in there, but I'm just going to clean it up with a rat tail file. That's pretty good. So now we've got that right. Our string is going to go, this is called a break angle actually, the string coming across the top of the nut, and to have the best sound and sustain, that's length of sound, the string is best going downhill to the posts. So what we're going to do now is reduce the thickness of the headstock, taking this part off. But before we do that, you get a cleaner surface if you drill first then cut afterwards. So we're just going to move to the drill press now. There's a bit of a shadow here, and some people say I'm getting a bit older and I don't like working in shadows, so I've got a headlight that I'm going to just put on for this part of the job, and that will illuminate things considerably. Drill presses, power tools are absolutely brilliant things. They really make production go a lot quicker, but they also have inherent dangers. So honestly, folks, power tools, but drill presses, long hair, loose clothing, tuck your hair into a hat, don't wear loose clothing or tuck it in, have a lot of respect for rotating power tools. So what I'm going to do now is just draw a line here to pick up 15 millimeters from the bottom where our machine heads are going to go on, and that'll create our break angle. So we're going to go back over to the bench here, make a cut down, and then we're going to rip it. So anyway, back at the bench. Now, the thickness of the headstock on a guitar is generally around 15-16, and 15-16 gives us room to wind the string on and down the post a little. So what I'm doing here is, because we're working from the bottom, I'm marking 15. Now, I said to you a few minutes ago, and I'll just mark it on this side as well, I mentioned a few minutes ago about a finger gauge, a thumb gauge actually it's called, and it's holding this in a certain way, a certain distance, and you can go like that. Long fingernails it catches. There's another tool you can use, it's called a pencil gauge. Now, I'm sort of blessed, to be honest. I've got some wonderful friends, and one of them is Colt Cletton, and he gave me this pencil gauge, and I've set that up for 16 mil, and what you do is you just put that on there flat, like that, And there's no guesswork. You don't have to worry about long fingernails. So that's I've marked 16 mil, just allowing a little bit for sanding the top off to make it a little bit flat. And now we want to bring down I made a mark across here a second ago. I just put a square on there. And so we've got a line here now where we're going to cut down on an angle. And we're going to pick up a point here. So we'll just make that symmetrical with the other side. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, but it's sort of nice to do it that way. So that's why the datum's so important. You can always work to it. And just a square. And we come from this line. Like that. So there we go. I'm going to cut that with a saw on an angle, and then with a saw I'm going to rip it. So this is cross cutting, and then I'll be ripping. And so what I'll do is I'll do the cross cutting here, and then I'll do the ripping using a vise and a different saw. This is a pretty good quality saw. This is nice and wide, so it's accurate. The narrower it is, the more it can veer off to the sides. So this is a cross-cutting side, this is a ripping side. The ripping side is like chisels, whereas this has got set, left, right, etc. And so what I'm going to do is depth gauge this cut. Oh, and by the way, this is a Japanese pull saw. They can be thinner and usually very high carbon steel. The more expensive the saws are and the better they are, the easier they are to snap. If I wanted, I could snap this real easy. They're wonderful, wonderful saws. Just checking we don't go too far. So that'll just get us started. This particular cut doesn't have to be overly accurate, as long as you can get it fairly close. I think they call that voila. Now we're going to go to the vise and we're going to rip this face off. So righto, with the coarse tooth, the ripping tooth, we're going to rip this timber, and I'm going to focus a bit here, so I'm not going to crack any jokes or tell stories because I want this fairly plumb. There we go. A little bit of room for movement here to plane or sand, whatever. So I came just off the line a little bit, and just with a plane. I'm just going to go across the grain. It's a little bit quicker. The grain's sloping slightly downhill, so now this is a sanding pad that I've got, and what I'll do is I'll just clean that up a little. Just while I've got the sanding pad. There we go. Now, the bridge could be another bit of continuous thread, no problem. I've seen people use keys and all sorts of stuff. Garbage man's going past just in case you can hear something out on the street. Anyway, that's a very easy system, but all it does is one thing. It allows the strings to be high enough to go to give it height, and that's it, end of story. You still have to earth the bridge, and we also going to be putting a pickup in this guitar. And so out of a little bit of aluminium angle line, I'll just show you what I used. Well, actually it's not angle line, it's T-section. So I'll just pop this away. And so what I've made here is, I did this last night because I was told this should go for about an hour and it'd take too long. And so all I've done here is I've drilled a hole. I think that's 9.5 mil for the output jack to go into. The strings are going to go underneath these slots, and I'll put a little recess in there so the string ball can sit up against it. And on the end of steel strings, the wound ones, they're 50% extra the diameter. And so I've drilled a hole, cut it in with a hacksaw blade. Actually, I didn't use a hacksaw blade, I used a Dremel with a little disc in there. Anyway, most of the string pull is going to be in the section where the strings are, and so the bridge will want to lift up. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes on this side, but on the other side it's in tension, it's pressing down, but nevertheless I'll put 3 screws there as well. Righto, so I found the pickup. I've just recycled an old pickup, and the important thing is we want our poles fairly close to string placement, and so perfectly above it is, I think, the ultimate. And so the pickup will be, I'll recess that down in there, and the bridge is going to be going here, like that, pre-drilled, and then this in there, and then the output jack goes in there. So I think the next thing we should do, in fact, is mark the I think I'll put the bridge in place first, in fact, and then just with 2 screws just to hold it, and then I'll run a string temporarily from here down to the nut, and we'll make sure our position for the pickup is in the correct spot. Now the neck pickups, and there's bridge pickups, and so this one happens to be a neck pickup, so make sure when you grab your pickup that you don't change it over with another one, because they have different centers. So I reckon about there is pretty good. Righto, so I'll mark that. A very fast way to do it is using a router. Not everybody's got a router. And so what I'm going to do is I'll use a chisel and a mallet, and I'll chisel a cavity for this pickup to go into. We want the pickup about 4.5–5 mil down below the strings. If the pickup's too close, the magnetic field pulls on the string and reduces the amount of oscillation the string's able to produce. Because strings, when you pluck them, if you looked at them in a camera in slow motion, they oscillate, and the pull of the magnet will pull a string and slow the oscillations down. People call it choking the strings. So you can't have it too close, but if you have it too deep and too far away, you lose the its power. So around 4–5 mil is what we want it lower than the top of the strings. So we want to go about 10 mil deep. Now 10 mil. There's a little bit of a trick we can do here for 10 mil. And what I'm going to do is I'll show you a nice way to do it. A little bit of masking tape. Fold the end over, and that'll become a sweep. And what we're going to do is go back to the drill press, and we're going to make a series of holes in this area here for the pickup to go in, and then we can chisel down to that point, and we know we're 10 mil. If we go a little bit deeper, no problem. You can put a business card under there, whatever, but we don't want to have it too high. So we'll go now to the drill press and carry out the next operation. So we've got the drill press set up now with the drill. The size of the drill is not important. You could use a force and a bit and do 3 or 4, but you may not have a force and a bit. And these drills are easy to come across. So back in there, and if you notice, when I'm at the right depth, the masking tape will sweep away the shavings, the sawdust. Righto, so just chiselling away now to get rid of the waste. Sharp chisels are make the job wonderful, and also the wider the chisel, the more power you need to drive it. So you don't have to use a 50mm or 2mm chisel. You can use a smaller one if you please. To do straighter edges though, it doesn't hurt to have a wider chisel. Well, perfect's close enough. Beauty. So what we're going to do now is solder up the output jack to the pickup and then place it onto the bridge. Now the nice thing about this is it's automatically earthed to the strings. So this point is the hot and this one's the earth. So hot is usually red or white and the black is the earth. So what we'll do is we'll just tin the contacts. And tin the wires as well. What I'll do is just snip off the excess wire, and that's our output jack ready to go, and we'll pop him in the bridge. Now we're using 3mm OD screws, and they require a 2mm pilot hole. So we've got a 3mm clearance hole here, and this is our 2mm pilot. And camphor laurel is a fairly forgiving timber, but some timbers aren't so forgiving. So if you don't drill a pilot hole, there is a chance you'll fracture the you can fracture the timber. So I've got to stop about 12mm down from the end of the chuck, 10mm down. You could put the tape on there as well. So righto, that's where the bridge gets screwed on. Now I have to drill some extra holes here where the string ball can go down underneath. So back to the drill press. This will become self-evident. So what we're doing now is making it possible to change strings while the bridge is in place. So this is where the string's going to sit, but we need to be able to put it in there, which means it has to go in on an angle. And so you could use electric drill and ream it on an angle, or you could use a chisel, whatever's easiest. Now we can install the bridge now. So righto, I've got me screwdriver going. So that's done. Now we just need 2 screws to hold the pickup in place. Righto. So the bridge, this system with the T-piece makes it very simple, and so the strings will be earthed. Now we've done that, it's just a matter of putting the machine heads on, and before we do the machine heads, I'm just going to do one little minor embellishment. This is our embellishing. So what I'm going to do is, because the hole's an interference fit, I'm just going to put a little bit of vaseline on the posts, and that'll then bed into the timber and just make it a little bit easier to tune, or for rotation I should say. And so this is just regular vaseline, and I put in a hypodermic needle thing just for convenience sake. It's also a great product to put on your rack and pinion, or crown wheel and pinion. If you use an oil first, you can always double check and make sure you've got your hole centered by pushing fibres across. Yep, they're all good. I've got a little white mark on there. If you ever strip a hole when you're replacing machine heads, find a little bit of timber, like a matchstick, and whittle it down into a little, it doesn't have to be perfectly round, but you can just whittle it down into a little cylindrical wedge and super glue it in place. And it'll give you brand new timber to secure your machine heads on with. And what I'm going to do is take this from maximum torque down to about 5, so I don't strip the holes. Go a bit less. Beautiful. The clutch kicks in when you reach your torque setting. That's that little noise you can hear. I've got a great system to make a slide guitar like this, but an acoustic version. And I'm going to do another video another day with an acoustic lap steel slide guitar. Very similar to this, but using a carving tool of sorts to hollow out a chamber. And with this, I'm just going to double check it again, make sure they're tight. Better to have them loose than too tight, because you can snap heads off on these little stainless steel screws, or you can strip the timber very easily. There we go. There we go, hardware installed, apart from the nut. But that installation's pretty quick. There we go, all the hardware installed, ready to string up. So I'm going to grab some strings now, and we're going to string up. Yeah, so look, I've strung it up. All I had was some resonator strings in phosphor bronze. My first choice would have been nickel, and but anyway, they're on and they'll work, I think. And so what I'll do is I'll just, now they're on and I'm happy, so just snip these off. Don't need these tassels. And I've just got a tuner here. I'm tuning it to Open G, which is DGD, GBD. Yeah, righto, so she's all strung up, trimmed. I slipped my initials on there too. And now we're ready to plug it in, so I'll give you a demo. Anyway, There you go, one slide guitar finished.